Okay guys, so we're doing the example on page 397, so you guys can go there, and basically I'm just reading there on figure 18.1 illustrates a 45 day project with 9 activities, A to I, A, C, D, F, H and I. These ones are all on the critical path. And activities B, G, and E has a float of 15, 24, and 9 days respectively. Okay, so and a total time period of 45 days. Okay, and it's very similar as any histogram, where you first do your Gantt chart, where you list or put everything on your Gantt chart as normal. You list your items, you have your specific items. Don't ask me what the specific items are. I don't think it's relevant for us at this stage, but basically what you do is you list the number of laborers that you need. For instance, here we need 2 laborers per day for item A. For item C, we need 6 laborers per day, and D 2, and so forth and so forth. Okay, so what you do is you list those laborers and you add the number of laborers that you need per day. Okay, so that's how you add it. And then from here, this table, you basically draw up a histogram, which is shown in figure 18.2, which indicates your peak demand. So it's very easy. You can see here in your histogram where you actually have the amount of laborers that you need. So you can see you start out with only 2, and then on day 5 it peaks at 10, 7, and so forth. Okay, now the example continues to say or indicate the amount of the maximum amount. Okay, so the problem with the contractor is that he only has 6 joiners available to work on this project. If the project completion date is not to be extended, the only solution to the problem is to level the labor demand within the program according to the number of joiners available. This means adjusting the work activities within the available float, but obviously not the critical ones. To reduce the peak labor demand situation, this is shown in figure 18.3. Okay, so here's the line that I just drew in. He only has 6 laborers available, so obviously he has to make a plan during this peak sessions there and there to level his resources. So looking at figure 18.2, you can see this is basically the histogram, just showing the amount of laborers that you need. A, C, D, F, G is the critical labor, whereas you have B, G, E, and G, which continues through here, which gives you a critical or the non-critical labor items. Okay, so if the project completion date is not to be extended, the solution to the problem is to level the labor demand within the program according to the joiners available, like I said. Okay, this is shown in figure 18.3, which also indicates 18.3, which also indicates improved continuity of work by the joiners. Okay, so basically items B, G, or B, E, and G are drawn out over this section. So basically, instead of having B on top and E and G staggered here, they could put these items, move them to a later stage, and actually level out the peak demand. So you can see the peak demand now level is within the 6 laborers per day. Okay, so does that make sense? I think so. It's not always the case that you can do that. We'll see in the next example that we're going to look at that sometimes your project will move out. This is shown in figure 3. Okay, the solution is not ideal, however, because there's a fall in demand during days 17 to 24. That's now from there to there. This gives the site manager a problem from a labor control point of view, because the joiners may find work on other sites, etc. Okay, so basically these joiners have to wait until these guys are done with their work, so B and C. So it's not ideal, but what it does is that the amount of resources are optimally used by the main contractor, but the subcontractor in the end loses out because he cannot start with his fitting after item B is finished. Okay, so that's more or less the nutshell, in a nutshell, that example. I also wanted to do that example that was done in PKM and free, which you guys might recognize, but I just want to quickly touch on it again. Is the resource planning is a technique used in conjunction with the critical path network to integrate resource requirements into a critical path network or project schedule. Okay, so good practice in critical path method is that the duration of the activity should be driven by the volume of work and the amount of resources available. Okay, so here we've got a scenario. We've got, let's consider the earliest our earlier pipeline or pipeline project, and assume that the durations were derived from the following sources. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 activities with the durations, with the machinery need, okay, and then the amount of labor resources that they need. Okay, so this is nicely drawn out, so it's nicely visualized, so it's the same process as the previous example. You list the items and you draw your Gantt chart, and nicely in Excel you can actually put in your labor requirements. So here they only put in the labor requirements, so the amount of plant is listed here at the bottom. Okay, so you can see how the labor is added up. Here you've got, it goes up to 6, 5, 3, and then you peak at 10 here, and then here you can see here you've got a TLB and a BOMAG that is actually listed here or needed, and here the same. Okay, so manual excavations, you've got some compaction there that's needed, or your bedding which needs to be compacted. Okay, so you can see the labor histogram is drawn out, same as the previous one, and then you can see your machinery, which is drawn out here. You need 1 BOMAG and 1 TLB. On this particular day you need 2 TLBs, and this is basically what the exercise shows, is that you don't have 2 TLBs to use, and you don't have money to use or to get a new one, so you have to do a bit of resource leveling, and this is where you cut off your resources. Okay, so okay guys, so what we did was we basically did a bit of resource leveling. So instead of on day 7 where we had 2 TLBs that we required, we replaced the required TLB, only used the TLB to lay the pipes, but if we don't use the TLB, it extends this manual excavation. So we, instead of using or being completed within 2 days, the manual excavations, we now need 4 laborers for 4 days instead of this 1 day where we had the 1 TLB to our disposal. So what basically happened was we took away the 1 TLB here on this 1 day, and we added 4 laborers per day to this item, and for 4 days, so our labor increased to 7 these days. So that's what changed. And what also happened was we could do so we added the 4 laborers there, but we could it didn't have an effect on our completion date because everything was still done on the same day. So this was a nice example of how it can be mitigated without using too much labor or adding another day to it. So that's more or less what resource leveling is. So there's 2 examples, the one for labor leveling, and then the other one for machinery leveling. And the main thing that I want you guys to know for this is how, if you get a practical example like this in practice, how to actually apply your mind towards this and how to draw up a histogram. But like I said, I'm not going to go into it in too much depth because you should have done this within PKM3 last year. Okay, thank you.